Hi, this is Jonathan Jacobs. I am here today with Kelly Buffey and Robert Kastelic from AKB, the founding principals of Atelier Kastelic Buffey. It is very exciting to have you both here on Behind the Build, so thank you for taking time out of what is a very busy day. I know you generally have, and spending it here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so we had exchanged messages. We had met a couple years back. One of the other things I should actually introduce is we have Finley. So in the background, you might, throughout the course of this, you'll hear Finley. Finley is their dog. He's here with us. And so moving past introductions into AKB. So one of the exciting things about this year marks a 20-year mark for the practice.
Yes.
So 20 years together.
Yeah.
At the practice. Longer together as a couple.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Still together.
Yeah. Made it.
we were talking over lunch about how special it is to be able to work together, live together, and how that really helps solidify what a strong relationship can look like, and the output of that into both work and personal life, and how it all kind of is so symbiotic together. Mm-hmm. So if we go and we scale everything back to the beginning individually, I want to kind of get to know at what stage of your life did you realize you wanted to become an architect? Was there a defining moment early in your life that you established that?
I would bring it back to my high school days here in the city, where I met a guidance counselor who asked me to fill out a form of what you would want to be in the future. So I put actor, engineer, then architect.
In that order?
I can't remember the exact order, but I remember for architecture I was good at art, I thought, at the time. And I was good at science. And I thought that was the combination you needed to be an architect. So I just put that down. But, I was, I think, 16 at the time. And, I just ran out of the room and went back to high school. So a few months later, I got an invitation in calligraphy, et cetera, from Empire Club at the Royal York Hotel.
Okay.
So first of all, it was like nice paper, big envelope. It says, this is not for me. This is a mistake. And it says you're invited to the head table at the Empire Club with a presentation by Moishe Safdie. So I was like, what? First of all, I didn't know who Moishe Safdie was, and I didn't know what the Empire Club was. I don't even think I knew what the Royal York Hotel was, because I'm a West End guy. I didn't really go downtown that much at 16.
Yeah.
But so it was an invitation to this event, and so I only can assume that somehow the guidance counselor put me on some kind of list, which I found out later to be was an introduction for students interested in a career, that they would sort of get inner city students involved in an event like that as a kind of introduction to careers.
Incredible.
So I ended up underdressing. I thought I was overdressed, but I guess when I got there, I was underdressed, and sitting at the head table with there's a rabbi, there was Garth Drabinsky, there was Moishe Safdie, Maclean's Magazine. This is what I found out later on.
Yeah.
And there was a huge presentation.
Who were those people?
Yeah. Who are these people I'm sitting with, having this lunch and being blessed by the rabbi? And essentially he was promoting the opera house design he had at the time. I think it was a pyramidal shape, and which, to be honest, I wasn't very excited by when I saw it, but I guess there was a big push to get, I think, donations or money for the opera house there. So I was just sort of watching everything and seeing Garth Drabinsky, who at the time had a cane. I met him and took photos with him at Maclean's and with Moishe Safdie until I figured out later who he really was. And so I thought, this is wild. This guy shows these models, and it's almost felt like a science fiction world when you look at that stuff. So I thought, this could be something I want to do. And then that was something I came back, told my friends. They thought I was making it all up. But,
of course.
That was
because what do they know at 16 too? They did the same thing.
Yeah. So I said, this is what I think I'm going to do. So I worked towards getting my accreditation, or my credits I needed to get into architecture school. And luckily I got into Waterloo, where I met a lot of great people, and a lot of contemporaries are working in the city today. So
Yeah.
that's sort of how it started for me.
Yeah, and I had spoken to Drew, and he was saying how the two of you had roomed together.
Yeah, same class.
And I was saying how with him I tried prying. I was like, any fun stories, Drew? And Drew didn't give me a whole lot. So maybe we keep them vaulty.
All I can say is they really like Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Twin Peaks viewing in the house. It was like a house of 4 guys.
Got it. Okay. And Kelly, yourself, and what did it look like for you early on?
Yeah, I think when I was in high school applying to universities, I was interested in architecture, but I didn't have the prerequisites at the time. So I ended up going to Queen's for a general arts degree.
Yep.
I studied English literature and art history. And then following that, I was still interested in architecture. So I applied to Ryerson, the interior design school, now Toronto Metropolitan University. And I thought I would go for 1 year, get a portfolio together, and then apply for my master's in architecture. But I really enjoyed Ryerson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the workshop building full-scale furniture. It was very hands-on, tactile, and very practical, a very different education than Queen's, which was much more theoretical.
Right.
And so I continued with my interior design degree. I still wanted to go back to architecture. And by my 4th year for my thesis, I actually designed a very Tadeo Ando-inspired concrete museum where the TIFF building currently is. So I was always more interested in the sculpting of space than actual surface finish or applique of materiality. I really loved that kind of integral, like the wall is what you see is the structure. So that's very hard to achieve in our climate, but it's sort of my conceptual ideal. And then I did end up, I worked in New York, then I came back, I worked at KPMB where Rob and I met,
Yep.
1997. And then I left KPMB after 3 years, went to Yabu Puschelberg, worked there for a year, took time off, and somehow found myself working on a Shim Sutcliffe home. And it was such an inspiring home. Their work is just incredible, but it showed me that there was so much more for me to learn. And so at the age of 33, I applied to go back to school and do my master's in architecture.
Amazing. Okay. Because that's a different path.
Yes. Yeah, it was a bit of a roundabout. It was always the goal, but it took me a while to get there.
And had you kept in touch with each other after leaving KPMB?
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
I guess we can say we were a bona fide couple while we were at KPMB with minimal PDAs.
I love it.
I don't know how secretive we were, but
We thought we were.
we thought we were, but I think it was,
It was well established.
yeah, I think we glowed when we walked by each other.
I mean, for what it's worth, and I always try to describe what I see, and that is that there is still very much as you're talking about this now, I can see glow. So, so that's something. Okay, that is something, and that's what I think anyone could always hope for. Mm-hmm. And so, at what stage did you decide you want to formalize making a go at your own practice? Mm-hmm. Was this?
Yeah, I guess when I was working on that Shim Sutcliffe house, it was to do furniture. I had my interior design degree at the time, and I love furniture. Furniture is like mini architecture. However, I aspired to do more. Yeah. And when that sort of rolled into many other projects where I was designing houses, interiors of houses, and suddenly I had a business without really intending to venture out on my own. It just became word of mouth, and I was working late out of my little apartment, right around the clock, and paid off my student loan. And then I guess that rolled into me going into university and for my master's. And I had asked Rob if he could take over one of my interior design projects in the summer before I entered my master's. So in the fall, he would be sort of running it while I was studying, but I would still be available and behind the scenes on that project. So we sort of organically, he was leaving KPMB at the time and looking for a change, and he had gone through some traumatic life changes with his family, and so it was a good time for him to take time off, slow down, and for us to start collaborating. And it organically grew into AKB. I think we registered the name in May of 2004. Yeah. So.
And there it begins.
Yes. It sort of began in my parents' basement for a while.
Yes.
Officially.
Yes.
And what was that like? So
it was a big learning curve for me because I came out of more institutional and cultural work with KPMB.
Right.
And this being residential, I had to sort of recalibrate my skills and my understanding of how to serve residential clients well.
Right.
And Kelly has such a soft hand with the clients, and how important that is, and she still does that. Though I do sometimes call her the velvet hammer. So when she wants to get a point across, it'll come across sooner or later.
Yeah, but you don't know that it's coming. And when it came, it was very delicate and soft.
Yes, exactly.
But you've been put in your place.
Yes. Yes. It's our velvet hammer.
It's a perfect description because I completely understood what you meant.
And so that got me rolling into residential, and then it got just really exciting because we had such latitude to work with different kinds of wonderful people, different amazing materials, varied sites, and just the people, the clients were just incredible that we were meeting. Yeah. So we were,
and how did what I'm always curious about is, so you start off the practice, and it's a gamble, right? When you're going out on your own, you have no idea what sales are going to look like, how to run an operation, all of that. Yeah. So what you start this, and you're saying running it out of your parents' basement. How are you acquiring clients at this point?
Yeah. So one of my interior design clients knew that they all knew that I was doing my master's in architecture.
Yeah.
And they had just purchased a property in Collingwood for a ski chalet. And they had asked if we were interested in bidding on it. This was when I was graduating, just a few months before I graduated from my master's. And of course we said yes. And we got the job, which was, we really didn't think we were going to. So that was super exciting. We started right away. That was our first architectural venture together.
And a new build.
Ground up.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
To be able to win that early.
Yes. And Rob had the technical experience.
Right.
He had worked for several years for KPMB, both in Toronto and in Montreal. And I had the interior experience. So I had a lot to learn for sure on the technical side of things. But we were able to work together, and Rob really is exceptional at resolving technical details in a really elegant way, and that's so important to the design. And I can be very heavy-handed on the design side of our work, and the resolution of those details in such a precise, clean way is something that I'm always striving or encouraging in the office. But it's something that I can't do on my own. It's something that really needs the collaboration of at the beginning it was just really Rob and I. So we would end up pushing each other. He would say, it can't be done. I'd say, it has to be done. And then you say, no way, yes way, maybe way. I think that's how Rob would describe it. But eventually we would work together, and we both have to make some compromise, but we'd end up with a very well resolved building. So it's it as we got busier, we just fell into those strengths. So I have always been the creative design lead, and Rob's always been the technical lead. But we know that we can't do it on our own.
Mm-hmm.
We need each other, and now that we've grown, we need more than each other. Every person in our office is so valuable. They really come with a wealth of information and education, experience, knowledge, perspective. We all have different perspectives, and we love to collaborate.
Right. And so at what stage of the inception of your practice did you realize that you were overwhelmed with what was in front of you, and you needed to then hire your first employee? You remember how many years or months into the practice it was?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Was it Matthew Haig, our first?
Yeah, I think so. He's a writer now, but he was a very good designer. So, I mean, we knew he would excel at anything he did. But we went into the Waterloo Co-op pool of students to help us out at first. And that was a lot of wonderful talent. I mean, that was my alma mater. And since he had a co-op program, we took advantage of that and, sort of paying it forward and saying, yeah, I did the same thing. I went through co-op and got my experience in the office and learned under mentorship from people I still communicate with and go out with. It's, over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it started, slowly with the 3 people in the office. Then it got to 4. And then we got a full-time architect that, we just started as having someone else to bounce off of. So that's sort of tough, having a couple to work under and see the shenanigans going on between us, and then trying to stay sane.
We do banter.
We banter, yes,
as part of our process.
I mean, wouldn't you expect that if you know that you're going to go work for a couple, wouldn't you expect them to have banter?
Yeah, I think in the begetting there's a lot more banter than there is now. I think there's more of a psychic link now. We just look at each other and we know what each other's thinking without saying it.
Yeah, I think
it's been that long.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that when you brought in Matthew as the first person, like all of a sudden things became even more real, right? Because now you've got an employee that you've got. Or is this sorry, you said it was a co-op, so you're not
a co-op student. Yeah. So
is it a paid co-op?
Well, it's always paid co-op.
Yeah. Okay.
We never took any volunteers, though we at some points we got a lot of requests for we'd work for free, but we just would say we don't do that. I mean, it doesn't seem we came from where you guys came from.
Yeah.
Like, we have to survive and live and enjoy what we're doing. We don't want to feel that at all. So
yeah, we really promote work-life balance. It's so easy for us to get wrapped up in what we're doing. The whole industry is a very hardworking industry.
Yeah.
And, I would say I do continue to work outside of hours as a business owner. I think we all do. It would be impossible not to, but we encourage work-life balance on our team. And I think people are more productive. They're definitely happier. They bring more life to the office when they have a life outside of the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we as soon as we had our first employee, that's when we decided to get a company health plan. So we were off the bat. We said this has to happen. Yeah. We were, that's how I was, brought up, like, and have access to that, and so we helped introduce that to the office early on. And I think a lot of other offices didn't really do that at that scale.
It's actually a topic that I haven't gone into yet at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because, you want people to stay healthy, take care of themselves, because they're working hard for you, and, you want to give back in some way. And I think that's just the minimal way to, especially when you're just a 3-person firm, we got to take care of ourselves too.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've always had that sort of social mindset of making sure the environment for the people's team work with is more than conducive to the work. That's why we're so excited about our new space, which is, I think, a testament to what we feel, per square foot for each person, what that is. And it's
a spacious.
It's quite spacious.
Well, I'm gonna go there. Because I wanted to ask, because you were working out of their parents' basement. So then, at what stage of the practice? How long into the practice was it before you got your first office space? Do you remember?
It was so we were in Rob's parents' basement, but they had actually passed. So
Yes.
Rob had inherited the house.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we moved from there downtown into a loft, and that was Richmond and Spadina, right in the heart of it.
Yeah.
And
I see the smile on your face as you're now thinking back to the memories of being in that space.
Yes. Entertainment district.
Yeah. Back when clubbing was a big thing.
Yes.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
There was rush hour at 3 a.m. to get back.
It was. I tend to work late, and I remember being stopped by Ride several times on my way home, 2 blocks away from Queen and John, or 3 blocks maybe. But but of course I had just been working, and there were times where I even slept there on the floor in the office when it didn't make sense to come home because I had to wake up in another hour or 2. But I think it's been a good evolution of the office over the years, and I think we care about people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in our practice. That's what we're doing. We're creating homes for people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to enhance the quality of their lives. And we care about our employees.
Mm-hmm.
We want to enhance the quality of their lives too. So buying this building is a way for us to all live and work in a space that is AKB designed. It's very modest, mind you, and we had a limited budget, but it's really about volume and
natural light.
natural light, compression, expansion of space, the essential kind of tools of architecture, rather than investing heavily in materiality and more transient or surface aspects of design.
Right. And so, this move comes in between where the office was. You said it was at Richmond and John.
It was
Queen and John's
Queen
on
and John,
John
sorry.
Street. Yep.
Yeah.
And now, was there? How many offices have you been in between that time period?
Then we moved to the West End at Dundas
We were on
and Howard Park.
Morrow Avenue, and that was when we had our second child, first biological child, but second child.
Yeah.
And I like to spend a lot of time at the office, but I was a mother, and I wanted to also be involved in our children's life and our family as it was growing. So reducing the commute time from going from the West End, Roncesvalles downtown, by going directly around the corner, we can walk to work, or we could walk to work. We still can walk to work. That just gives us more time in our day to spend with family.
You're right. I will say this because I want to talk more about some of the intrigue of the projects and staff, because you've talked about how important people are. And to that point, I want to say this: we had lunch. We got to know each other a little bit. We've shared some stories about who we are, and one of the profound things that I have taken away so far in spending some time with you is how vital human connection seems to be for the two of you in a way that I haven't been able to express previously with. So it's a pleasure so far.
Oh, thank you. Same for us. Yeah, I think it is about connectivity.
It is. And it's interesting because there are ways of describing residential construction and architecture, and some people will call a home a residence. Some people will call it a house. And then there is the term home. And there are 3 completely different ways of describing that same place. And not once have you called it a residence, and not once have you called it a house. Every single time you've referred to it as at home.
And I think that came up at the recent OA convention, where we were going to all these lectures about housing. It's all about housing. And we were in, I think, Alison Brooks' lecture, and she was the first person in the whole event that said home. And this is an architect-filled convention center talking about housing, and not one word home was ever said until she came up to say it. And I had to raise my hand and said, I have to thank you for saying the word home, because I mean, it's a convention of architects
Yeah.
about housing, but no one talked about home.
Well, because when you use the word house, it decentralizes the feeling of home, right?
Yeah.
It takes it away.
And I totally believe that everyone wants that feeling.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of the big social issues now that is being contended with far too late. And having a place where you're comfortable and safe and could express yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could argue that all architecture is a home for a type of, whether it's your work or music or museums, it's a home. Like, you're creating a space that is physically and viscerally having an impact on the person that is experiencing it. So you need to think about that, I think, really carefully and thoughtfully in order to create those special moments and experiences. And we all bring something different, I think, to the world, or our vision of the world. Everyone is different, and nobody should be the same. And we like to celebrate the differences. But in each office, I think we each have a different character, in that you can't help but express your own personal vision of the world, or who you are, what you've experienced. It comes out in the art. You can't avoid that. You can't run away from it. And I think for us, it's really about creating a place that feels tranquil, and you're very in tune with your own senses, your heart. You're connected to that space. So how do we make it feel? It's all the small decisions we're making along the way are having an impression on people at the unconscious level. So we love doing that, and we tend to do it in a way that people refer to it as minimalism, but I think it's actually bringing quietude to life, so that life itself can be expressed, and we are just creating the background for that expression, and a place of focus where you can really look inward and celebrate your sort of personal being on this earth.
You used an adjective there to describe it that I very rarely hear, the quietude, because life is very loud.
Yes.
It is.
It's loud enough and busy enough that you need that moment of tranquility or respite.
Yeah, it's just some solace, like just to get away from it. And if home can be that opportunity, then you need to take advantage of it. So when we talk about that, because one of the things you had mentioned previously was about materiality, and in the office space, to reduce that and to make it more about the physical space. In the homes that you're designing, are there certain materials that you really like to work with frequently, or some that you like to try to engage with in a completely new way in one project that you've never thought of before? Like, what does that look like for you on the material side of things when you're designing?
Yeah, I think for us, holistic, you hear that word a lot now, but what is a holistic approach to design for us? It's the whole experience of the building from the outside to the inside. So it's a unified voice. It's rather than creating an expression on the outside that is completely different on the inside. We like to keep the whole experience harmonious. So quite often that means using the same material on the outside as we do on the inside. Back to that idea of, if we could use one solid material in the wall, and it truly was that material from inside to out, that's the purest form of the idea, or the concept doesn't work in our climate. So we end up using things like, primarily wood. When we're in cottage country, we're trying to be contextual and reference our environment as well. So when we have wood on the outside, we often have wood on the inside for technical reasons as well. The expansion and contraction of structural framing that happens with the change in our seasons is something that we need to be mindful of, particularly in cottage country. But aside from that, having wood on the inside of a building, you get that warmth, and you also There's a different sound quality when you're talking in a space that is covered in wood. So, yeah. And although in the city, I would say it's not always wood. Quite often there we are looking at drywall and there's stone,
Plaster,
ceramics,
Yeah.
porcelain.
Did you ever use metals?
We do use metals, and we do it in very concentrated, controlled feature elements rather than
like jewelry,
quiet jewelry without any sparkle. But it's we do. But again, I think our architecture, some people have described it as soft minimalism. And I think they feel a sense of softness in the space. And I do think some of the material choices that we make also contribute to that. So that we have never really done a fully clad steel building, or would we probably do that? Not sure if we would. Maybe we would if if it suited the conceptual idea and
it suited the client's DNA.
Yeah.
Our projects, there's AKB DNA and then client DNA.
Yes.
And that melding of the two DNAs is what gives the distinct projects their sort of uniqueness, I find.
Yeah.
You can't really sort of say, oh, that looked like that house. And
yeah, it's a collaboration. So our clients, they do, we have incredible clients. Some of our first clients were all part of Partners in Art. A lot of them are art collectors, patrons, or philanthropists, and the other people like us, working, and there are some lawyers, there's people in finance, psychology. We run the gamut, but everybody, I have to say, we work with is really quite incredible, and they come with something, even if they don't think they have a vision, they do, and it's our job to kind of pull that out of them, and then filter it through our own lens and create something that both they will love and that we feel has strong architectural integrity and that we're proud of it as well.
What I have found to be interesting about this entire industry and what is, I feel, a relatively young career in it so far. I've only been in this for about 7 years. But when I describe how to new prospective clients and what to look for in a design partner, it is more or less to understand who the people are. If you're working with a certain segment, focus on the people, because a lot of them are going to be able to bring it forward in some way, but you need to connect with the people, because if you connect with the people, then they're going to bring the architecture out of you. And that is what I am strongly feeling you're qualifying as one of your strengths without saying it.
Right.
There it is. I think this was a bit of the velvet hammer.
Velvet hammer. And ultimately, it's we listen.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I think we've been told by a number of clients is that, you listen.
Yeah. And it's something everyone who works for us too, and with us, we try to encourage everyone to really tune your listening skills.
Right.
Because it's so important, and you have to not only hear the words, but you have to read between the lines, and you have to interpret the emotions, have high EQ, I suppose. All of that really does help us be better architects.
And so what does the practice look like now, 20 years into it? Because it's not the same as it was in the basement. So you're in the new space, you've got a staff. What does the staff look like in terms of roles and deliverables? And then how do you two fit within that overall process?
Do you want to take that, or should I?
Well, now we have sort of I guess we call them tiers of, we have project leads now. We have organized little sort of triangle, or I don't want to call it pyramid because it's not three-dimensional. So it's like, triangles of, there's a project lead, and then intern architects below that, helping the project leads. We have an administrative and marketing people. Support services now, which we normally would have taken on ourselves for the first over decade kind of thing, to my chagrin. But
I just watch your eyes roll.
Yeah. I did a lot of bookkeeping for too long. But now we have a lot of support, and things just move in its own natural way.
Yeah, I think when we started, we really got into this because we were passionate about architecture, and we hadn't thought through what we were doing or how you run a business. Yeah, how to invoice, how to track your time, into what level of detail, how to create a quote properly. All of that was something we sort of learned trial by fire. And then you get to a certain point and we realized, okay, we really do have to focus on the business side, not just the creative, poetic, architectural side.
Which is hard. This has been a topic of discussion with a number of people so far, and it will continue to be a topic of discussion because we talked a little bit about education before and schools. And if you're listening, schools, pay attention because you don't do the best job at teaching people how to be business owners. You give them the technical savviness, the ability to understand how to create architecture, but you also know if you're gonna start a business, you need to know how to run it.
Yeah, I think in school it's I'm a graduate of University of Toronto from a Master's of Architecture, and I think the emphasis there was on thinking creatively and conceptually. And if you can conceptualize and problem solve, then you're well on your way to becoming an architect. But then when you graduate and you start working, there's the technical component that actually wasn't heavily focused on, I would say. And then the business, of course. I do think having a business course would be really valuable.
Right? Imagine that there was a stream of the program that was business related, and how many graduates would be coming out feeling empowered with the ability to be able to go and now, finish all their hours and get all the accreditations done, but then go start their own practice and not be fearful.
Or if they're working for another practice, knowing what it means to spend that extra 3 hours on that phase or on that RFI or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it is, you do have to bring the business acumen to it as well. So being an architect is sort of, you're almost in many ways a generalist. You're wearing so many different hats.
Yeah.
And when you scale, you're not able to do that anymore. So it becomes about hiring the right people from the right seat. So you get the right strength in the areas of sort of scaffolding up the business that you need to keep it going and going strong. And then everybody can now focus on what their particular strength is. And if we're all doing what we're best at and we're all rowing in the same direction, you tend to get there a lot faster. So
if you're given the opportunity right now to do whatever it is that you could do, are you doing that now?
I don't know.
More than before.
And yes. Plus, there's still some things I think we could delegate. But yes, I do focus on the creative side and creative direction of the firm and creative direction of each project. And I'm involved in pre-design, schematic design development meetings, and I go to site visits. So I'm still quite heavily involved, I would say. And Rob's still reviewing all the technical drawings.
Yes, crosses my table. Look at these details. They always look complete, but because they're drawn in the software, but you have to use that microscope and find where that vapor barrier is going.
Right.
And so
I think it's
constant.
Yeah. There's with Revit, I think the trouble, it's a very efficient program, but at the same time, I think sometimes it looks more complete than it actually is.
Graphically challenged.
Yeah, well, it needs people.
Yeah.
Right. So thankfully, AI is not going to fully replace us yet.
That would be pretty impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this stage, how many projects are you typically involved with? And that could be from, base of schematic design, conceptual design, through to, the end of construction.
Yeah. I think we've gone about 20.
Yeah. I was going to say 20.
Approximately 20. And right now a firm of 12.
12
people,
Okay, including yourselves.
including ourselves.
Okay, it's just actually the same size as us. Yeah, same size as us.
Yeah.
And in terms of project locations, are you inhibited by anything, or are you open to working wherever someone wants to build?
Yeah, we are open to anywhere. A lot of our work tends to be in Ontario, so we do a lot Point of Barrel, Muskoka, Kawarthas, Parry Sound, Cambridge, Prince Edward County, Mono, Thornbury, Collingwood, and of course in the city.
Yeah, and what about? I'm just curious because like Niagara Lakes and Grimsby, that area at all, or
We have one project in Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah.
It was a small project, a golf simulator, freestanding building in a beautiful garden.
oh, that's something.
Yeah, that was a fun little one. And but then in addition to that, we did an apartment, 3,000 square feet in Paris.
Really?
Paris, France, that was quite amazing. It's a very private client with a stunning art collection, and so that's a project that we're not photographing or sharing.
Yes, of course. So did you? I assume with that you had to partner with someone locally to be able to go through all of your permitting process and.
Yes. Yes.
And how did you source the consultants that you need to work with?
Actually, the builder we worked with is Canadian.
Okay.
And he's been living in Paris for a while.
Okay.
So he had all the relationships with all the trades, and the permitting, there wasn't really the same permitting process that we have here. So it was much more lax, but the quality of the craftsmanship was incredible. So that was a really fantastic experience. We also have one in Telluride, Colorado, and that one is an interior rather than a full build, but we'd love to do a full build.
How often were you in Telluride to see the project through?
It's actually just starting.
Oh, it's starting now. Okay.
Construction is just starting, but we have been working on the design for, I think it's been over a year, 2 years. It's been a longer design process than our typical, because for several reasons. It's very challenging in Telluride with the sort of topography. It's very there's a heritage component, and that we have to build around the heritage house. There's a basement, there's a sub basement.
Okay.
There's a lot of shoring.
Yeah.
And then there's a local architect. So yeah, it's a challenging project, but it's a fun one.
For anyone that thinks that this is just go design and it gets built, this is for you to understand that is not the case.
Yeah,
it's not the case. I'm watching Rob shake his head.
Yeah,
Technical director is saying no, that is not the case.
They have a lot of challenges there. Being in the mountainous, cold region, it's everything's thrown at that project.
Right.
Yeah, heritage as well.
Heritage,
strong heritage review process in Telluride if you're in the heritage district.
Interesting.
And although we're not doing the ground up building, we were involved in a lot of the sort of consulting, I would say. So it's been an interesting collaboration there. The local architect is named Tommy Hines.
Okay. I don't know him. I'm going to have to look him up.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
So with the practice being now 20 years old, I'm curious on a go forward basis, and I don't ask this to everyone, but because of where things are at with yourselves and the growth and the fortitude to be able to understand that you need people to fill in, have you at all looked at like what that succession plan would look like? Is that something that you even want to look at?
Yes, it is. It is something that is at the forefront of our mind right now. I'm 53 and Rob will be 54 in July. And
I'm sorry.
I know.
Rob just looked up in the air.
I'm that old.
You're that old.
It's just in the mind.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And Rob, do you want to share your recent news campaign that you're now starring in?
Yes, it's going to become apparent if it'll be in the media. But I've been working with Parkinson's Canada since I was diagnosed in 2017 with early onset Parkinson's, which I've been living with and working with for the last 7 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been part of their new ad campaign called Find Your Swagger. And which is
great title.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I've been fortunate to work with a bunch of great, artistic, creative people, directors to create this campaign. And, funnily enough, I sort of fell into this part with an audition tape and
done by our daughter,
13 years old, and she got me the part.
And
so now there's an advocacy for the Parkinson's awareness that's happening, and so there's a big media push, and it sort of adjusted my role in the office in terms of just what I can focus on, how much time I'll spend there, and obviously then how I could continue working with this diagnosis, which is I'm doing well to date, so it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, no, Rob's still an integral part of the office.
Yeah.
And I think it'll stay like that for a long time. But when he needs to break, he takes a break.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And for succession, we've been talking to certain consulting people.
Yeah, it's something we need to think more seriously about now. But we have developed a team and a very strong team structure.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very selective in when we hire as well. So we will be thinking about that next, and we'll do it in a way that we think is best for the firm. There's a lot to consider.
Of course. I mean, in fairness, it's a very heavy question. It's a very heavy question.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot, because there's so much to contemplate as you talk about, again, starting KPMB, and now here you are, and you're talking about 2017, a diagnosis. But then also, I have to say, in some ways, it's like an oxymoron. Congratulations in some way, because one of the 3 things you'd put down to your guidance counselor was to be an actor.
Yeah.
And look at you now fulfilling 2 of the 3.
True enough.
It's very true.
People say I wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have had to have not been too bad for them to pick you. I'm sure that there were a lot of applicants. I mean, we just established, and I won't mention names, but there was someone else that you now know that you beat out.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's clearly something there.
Yeah, apparently they cast all across North America, LA.
Really?
Rob was quite excited to be selected, and he's always been very theatrical, if I could say so.
Overexpressive.
Very expressive in a good way. So I think it comes to him naturally.
So maybe I'll say, so Rob, maybe I'm going to need you to sign a guitar that I have here behind you, and it'll join a collection of other signatures I've got with Lee Von Helm and a few others.
Sure, no problem. It might be a bit trembly.
That's okay. That comes with the campaign.
Yeah, I know.
So at this stage of the practice, Scales of Project, where are you now with Scales of Project? Are you still involved in small projects, or the majority of what you look at now needing to fit a specific typology of construction?
Right. I think, we've always been more inspired by the ambition of the client than the size of the project. But as you grow and you become more experienced, you tend to get the clients with the bigger projects coming to you.
Yeah.
So we do have a very large project finishing up in Caledon. I think it's 18,000 square feet. And we have another project starting, which is it's in the master planning phase, but the long-term goal is for it to be a family compound of cottages.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Right. Like that. And there are people out there that judge a project like that because, why not you go and you donate and be more philanthropic? But at the same time, someone has worked hard enough in their lives to be able to fulfill a goal to bring their family together.
Right.
and
Yeah.
And it's
create a
about family.
home.
Yes.
Yes.
And for anyone out there that judges what that is, it is the wrong approach. You need to reassess yourself, because for someone to be able to go and do that and work with people that care wholeheartedly about fulfilling that requirement and building a home, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's why you wake up,
Yeah.
right?
At the end of the day, you know, it sounds maybe cheesy, but really, when we're all at the end of our lives, what will we reflect on and what will we value most? I think it's, for me, the time that I spend with my family,
Yes.
and much of that time happens in our home. So if we can add to the quality of someone's life by creating a beautiful space that they really love and they feel comfortable in, then we feel like we've done our job.
Just a few more questions to ask you, and this is off topic now from the business. And so, what does life look like for you? Because you're talking about family. So, tell me about your family.
Yeah, we have 3 kids.
Yeah.
First one, Maya, she's 24.
Yeah.
She was actually our niece, and then my sister passed in 2009, so she came to live with us then, and we've raised her. She's an amazingly strong human being. She's actually working with us now. So
Amazing. Yeah.
it is becoming even more of a family business. She's our office manager, and
She likes to tell me what to do now.
yes,
I mean, you spent enough time probably telling her what to do.
Exactly.
yeah.
Retribution.
Yes.
The roles are reversed. But also, when I was 39, almost 40, we had Faye, who is now 13 years old. Amazing little spirit of a child.
Yeah.
She's we just discovered a year ago, actually, she has a gift to sing. We had no idea, but she has this beautiful voice. So she does a lot of singing. She's in grade 7. She's very personable, funny, fun child. And then we have Kai, who is 7. He'll be 8 next week.
Yep.
And Kai is always keeping us on our toes. He is.
And he's on his toes, running around.
Yes. Yeah, he's a very, very, very bright and wise child, well beyond his years, and a very unique perspective on life. And we're quite curious to see what he becomes in the future. But he's very sensitive, soft. So all of our kids are amazing.
And even Finley here, our little 4-month-old.
But you might have heard it through the first 20 minutes or so of our discussion.
Yeah.
And rolling around in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and what do you like to do to be able to, because I know it's hard for you to disengage from work. So what is it that you find is your release? What do you do?
Well, we do have a small cottage that we're actually listing right now. We're selling. But
we used to like going there.
We used to. It was great family time. I would say just being in nature, connecting with nature. I think is really great for kids growing up, and just exploring the world with freedom that you don't really get in the city. Now we take family holidays more so than we used to.
Yep.
And
Are there certain destinations you like going to?
Hot.
Yeah. Okay.
for the kids right now, hopefully it'll become more cultural as they get older. Maya, of course, 24, is more interested in doing her own thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
She's very independent and she's taking her own holidays. But with the others, the 2 younger ones, we end up usually somewhere south for March break, and we'll see. Maybe I'm not sure. We don't take a lot of vacations, to be honest, but we do try to spend a lot of family time at my aunt's. She has a place in Uxbridge. And at my mom's too. So our whole family gets together quite often outside of the city in various properties.
And hobbies? Are there any hobbies that you have that you like to be able to take your mind off of it?
What time do I live?
Is this a trick question? Yeah, I don't know. I'm that one. we're stumped.
Well, I still like drawing, sketching, like little caricatures and stuff with the kids.
Yeah.
And having them draw things, then we write stories to them. I always liked, I have a comic collection that I actually have showing up in our living room on the wall that I like to remember. And so I always sort of go back to drawing more fun stuff instead of the work-related details. So I still like being able to do that and express myself.
It's amazing watching the kids draw, right?
Mm.
And the stuff that comes out of their brain, you're like, oh.
I know. I wish I could learn to draw back in those days.
Right?
As a kid. It's so expressive.
Yeah. Rob does beautiful drawings. And I think Faye actually has a similar kind of hand. It's come through in her. But yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, it's a way to disengage from the monitors and the screens and the keyboards.
Yes.
And just, from mind to hand to paper.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very important tactile skill that needs to be continued and experienced and taught.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is different than drawing on a screen.
Yes.
Put some paper down, sharpen a pencil.
Yeah.
Yep.
And go see what your hand can do from your mind.
Yes.
We still have a pencil sharpener in the office that I carry around to the new building. I just have to find a space for it.
My daughter's asking all the time inside our house. She's like, "Where's the pencil sharpener?" I'm like, "I don't know. You're the one that used it. Go look for it. I don't know where I left it. Use your mind."
Yeah. I know. I love sharp pencils. It's one of my...
Right?
Yeah. It's
the pencil. I remember in art, all the varieties of the pencils.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I studied art for a long, long time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I thank you a lot for taking the time out of what I know is a very busy schedule. I appreciate all of the openness that you've shared. I wish you all the best in your campaign, Rob.
Thank you so much.
And being the face, because that's lofty.
Yeah, I guess it's like a coming out party.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I've always since I got into this practice, I've always loved your work, and so it's been a pleasure to talk to you about the early inception of it and to talk about the growth and the strategies that you've implemented over the years and how you've worked to scale things. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
It was great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.